So today, as you guys saw, it's going to be about buyer notes, buyer calls, buyer interactions. So let's just start with a really quick review of how we're moving buyers through our hot report. I know you had a lunch and learn with Rob about keeping it clean. So obviously I'm just using Eric's as an example today. You know, we've got our new buyers and our signed CAs, you know, going back to the training, how we do the 3 touches in 3 days, you know, how to get them to the point of acknowledging confidentiality and get more information, right? So we've got, you know, a few buyers on here. I'm going to click on here, right? We know this is a new buyer. And just kind of the importance of the 3 touches in 3 days. You know, you want to, the first touch, you know, you always want to make sure that you're calling. That's the easiest and best way to do that. You know, calling the first time instead of sending an email, because emails can just get lost more often than, you know, we like to admit, you know, all the time, especially with somebody who's looking at multiple listings. As I'm sure you guys have seen too, there's tons of buyers out there who are looking at different locations. So just kind of keeping that in mind with new buyers. Call the first time, call the second time. You know, texting is also a great tool as well, because that is the case. Some people do prefer to be texted, you know, and obviously in that situation, you know, you guys have that availability. You know, with us, we have like a different software system we have to use, but at least with you guys, you can just text very easily. So the whole point of that report is to move them up to the point of a hot buyer, move them up to the point of making an offer, getting them an LOI, getting them in contract. So one of the things, you know, just the quickest way, you know, you don't always have to, again, just a reminder, you don't always have to go into the person's account to put in a note. You know, you can always just go in there and put in the listing number, put in the notes. You know, that's something, especially if you're in a hurry, as you're kind of moving on your report, definitely something to keep in mind. That you can always kind of go that way, as well as, you know, you know, here with the hot buyer signed CAs, the quickest way to add a note is that way, of course, compared to, you know, for every one of them, you know, so something to keep in mind. Oh, it looks like we've got Stan coming in. Hi, Stan. We're just looking at just a hot report right now. But something that Robin had mentioned as well is when you're calling somebody, especially when you're on your phone, you're calling somebody, say, and I'm going to go into this person here. When you call a person and you click this button to call them, it'll automatically leave a note for you. So say if you don't have a chance, you know, if you're on the run or whatever you're doing, but you want to show that you did call this person and follow up, that note, when you click on that, it'll automatically put a note saying that you called them. So I'm just going to click on it. Obviously, it's not going to let me do anything, but it should then, once it's, oh, hold on a minute. Hello. See, now it says Eric Gagnon made a call to this buyer. So even though you may not have the chance to put in a note, a more detailed note right away, there is that kind of this little trick, quick way, at least, of putting that note in there. And so when you're looking at your hot report, you know, when you're like, okay, what was I doing again? And then you can at least click on note details and a little eyeball, you know, once it's, oh, here, let me update that. I have an eyeball, it will say that on there. But at least you'll be able to see it yourself when you're going through each buyer. You know, Eric made a call to this buyer, so now we know. So just little things like that, you know, even if you have to, you know, for myself specifically, when I call buyers and I'm doing like the first touches, second touch, third touch, I mean, everybody's got their own way of doing it. I simply just put, you know, like first follow-up, no answer, left voicemail. You know, so obviously if you have a more in-depth conversation, you leave more detailed notes on there. But if it's just with the basics, you know, leaving a voicemail, things like that, you just, you know, and everybody's got a different way. You know, I know Angela puts, you know, third touch, no answer, left voicemail. So there's different ways, but just sometimes numbering it even might help. Because I know if I just put follow-up, left voicemail, follow-up, left voicemail, you know, you can kind of lose count of how many times you've reached out to people. But just kind of wanted to review that quickly with you guys. Any questions on that? Anything that I can clarify or kind of dive a little bit deeper into from anybody? The quiet means everybody's okay? I can't see you guys, so I'm assuming you guys are okay.
I have a question about using all the little yellow notepads. Sometimes
Yeah, absolutely.
the only way to get notes on, can you scroll up to the top, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, so all those I'm sorry, the signed CAs.
Oh,
All
my
these
apologies.
notes,
Here we go.
whatever, all these notes, like you can hit the little eyeball at the far right and see the last note, but that doesn't show you if you go in and make a note or send them an email in the actual buyer record. It only shows you if you click the notepad and make a note, right?
No, if you go into the notes themselves and put in something, it should put up. So here, let's just test it now. Because that it should show the note, whether it is, the little notepad, or if you go into the actual email and notes to put in a note, it's the same thing. It's just a faster way to get to it. So let me because this is just something else, but let me just do like a test. We'll just do a little test note here.
Right, so that's going to show as a note, but if we send Carmen an email, it's not going to show up because it's not a note.
No, it's an email.
I thought we'd actually fix that, because that also should be showing that. But if that's the case, then it should also show that in there. Let me see.
It's really confusing.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's fair. And if that's something that we need to fix, then that's fine. But the whole point is that it should be then also showing that as a note. Restaurants. I'm just going to send it to myself. I don't want to send it to Carmen. I think we already sent her an email, so I'm just going to do that. So I send the email. Because if that's the case, then it's only when you put in the notes and not that email itself. So here's Carmen. Let's see, go look here and see if it says. Okay, you're right. It doesn't actually show when you send an email. So that's a really good point. I'm glad that we're discussing this. Is that something that we need to fix?
Good.
That's great. But we're, here, I'm going to put that on here.
Thank you, because that's just been really confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why I'm wanting to talk to you guys. If this is something we need to fix or anything, then we definitely can.
And so we can't get the eyeball on new buyers and hot buyers, just on signed CAs?
Let me see.
Well, it does show the latest note there. You don't need the eyeball.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, you don't need to have the eyeball just because it shows it on the hot buyers, but then everybody else it does.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. I will say though, when you put in an email as a note, and you pull, say if you ever, download that actual report assigned CAs, it will show if you sent an email that way, if you do it that way, but I guess it doesn't show it when you put in the notes for an email. But at least when you're, if you're doing the little notepad on the side, and you put a note in that way, it'll show up when you re-upload it again. And you can still see people there. Yeah.
It's just so much more time efficient when you have a huge hot report to not have to go to each person's record and then click on the email notes, because sometimes it takes a while to load. So, okay, well, thank you very much.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. I know Robin will talk about this further along, especially during the franchise conference. I know we're making changes to the box to make it a lot easier and user-friendly. So definitely stay tuned for that. It's really exciting. And it sucks that I can't say anything right now. But it is definitely going to be a lot user-friendly for sure. Any other questions in the meantime on this? I think we're good. No? We're okay. So just a reminder on that, and just the importance of leaving notes for sure, because, as you guys know, everybody shares everybody can see everybody's notes. So it's important to, when you're having a conversation with a buyer, to really notate it, because sometimes when a buyer will call us and say they discussed, they talked to whoever, we don't see that on there. It kind of leaves us a little bit kind of the guesswork. And then sometimes if they looked at multiple different listings, we're not sure who to you know, to really assist you guys better, who to transfer to, who to connect them to kind of assist them further. So just important, even if it's just like a simple little note, you know, spoke to buyer, you know, they will call me back, or spoke to buyer about listing, you know, just something even just simple, it'll definitely help us in the long run. And then just in general, when you're having a conversation with a buyer, and say, Chelsea actually gave me a really good example, if listing you're looking at is in contract, you know, but you can still kind of further that conversation and say, well, what are you looking for? Like, what kind of qualifications? Because in general, you know, if they're looking at a franchise, you know, the franchise is going to want to have information on their background. If they have restaurant, you know, like for example, firehouse subs, restaurant experience, managerial experience. So it's always good, just not just for everybody else, but for yourself as well, before you're, say, if you're in contract or introducing to the brand or to the landlord, you already have that to pull from. You know, if you say like, oh, buyer's restaurant and background experience, you know, they've owned a restaurant for 15 years, or they've owned multiple units, things like that. It's helpful just to have in the notes, you know, because I've found situations where, you know, they're looking at another listing, and I'm able to go back to notes from like 2 years ago, and it's like, oh yeah, this person actually used to own this bakery and used to do this and used to do that. So, you know, it's just, you can always further that conversation, talking about what kind of concept they're looking for, you know, like price range, square footage. You know, the website itself is such a great tool, you know, because even while you're having that conversation, you know, going back to the original training that you guys had, you know, the website is such a great tool in a way that, you know, while you're having that conversation with the buyer, you're able to search, you know, in the meantime, I think you can. There you go, okay. So, you know, while you're having a conversation, it's like, well, this one's not available, and I'll definitely note if it falls through, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I can definitely help you find another option. You know, are you looking for a specific price point? You know, so if they say they're looking for, you know, something with real estate at a price point of, you know, $1 million or something like that, you know, so that just, it's important to have those conversations, because when you put them in the system as well, we already have that in place. As, you know, for example, I've seen many times, you know, just any one of you guys will put a note like, well, they're actually not looking for asset sales. So we already know when I'm calling this person and they're inquiring about this particular listing, you know, it's like a team effort. You know, it is a team effort, and that information it's so vital that it's just kind of like just files for each buyer, and it's just helpful for everybody and for yourself. If you're, you know, you're thinking about this person and you're not sure they're interested in this listing, you're able to go back to your own notes and know, oh, this is what they're looking for. Okay, I just had a new listing pop up that's going to be perfect for them. Let me go ahead and connect with them. So just the how important notes are, but again, they don't have to be essays. You know, like you don't have to, unless that's, if you have the time, absolutely. I know when I have a really in-depth conversation, you know, I definitely want to make sure to put in the notes on there. And even just, you know, if you're putting not complete sentences, then you can go back and fix it again. But, you know, just kind of reiterating that's an important thing for sure, about just notes in general, you know, especially with buyer interactions. Every conversation is important. Every even if it's like a 1-minute conversation, you know, keeping a record of that is super important, not just for, you know, interactions and contracts and things like that, but also for buyers who are a little more difficult to work with. That's always something good to have, just because, you know, situations like, well, I've also had this situation, you know, where buyers will say, well, I've been calling this franchisee for 3 days now. And then, you know, we look at it and I'm like, well, actually this franchisee, this agent called you yesterday, the day before, they left a voicemail. So, you know, we're able to also defend you when somebody calls in because they're trying to say, well, I want to talk to somebody else. And it's like, well, this person has been trying to reach out to you for 4 days now and left voicemails and texts. Do you not see when that happened? I can even tell them the time that it happened, you know? So it's also just to kind of keep record of everything, just in case, because you just never know. I don't know if anybody, you know, wants to kind of elaborate on that, any situations that they've had, you know, any tips at this point or anything like that, that you guys might want to mention as well. You know, I know a lot of you guys have been here a lot longer than I have, so if you have any tips or any suggestions or anything. I'm you know, opening up the space here for you guys if you have anything at this time. Any? And I can't see you guys, so I'm just kind of looking to see if anybody has any, or any questions about that as well. Oh, I can see a couple of you guys. Okay, good. I'm looking around at the screen itself. But yeah, just I think it's important, you know, if anybody has any situations, like I said, just in general, just having that tracking those notes are really important. So if nobody else has any questions or want to stop me at this time, just want to give everybody a chance. Don't want to interrupt anybody. All right, so I want to make sure. Don't want to continue talking and interrupt somebody. So let me know, please. If you need to stop me, just say the word. I'm happy to stop. So something else to kind of discuss is you know, again, kind of further going to interactions with buyers. You know, we'll have situations, obviously, when buyers will be a little bit difficult. You know, I think going back to the training as well of, you know, just kind of people saying, well, why do I have to sign the CA? Why do I have to do this? You know, again, another reason why you want to note really well, because that'll happen. You know, that'll happen where they don't want to go through the steps, and that's unfortunate. That's the way. If you have to get more information, you have to sign the NDA, you have to go through the process. You know, it's just kind of de-escalating. You know, just I guess to give you guys my own tips, being in customer service, you'll have a lot of time if we're just you know, they're having a rough day, or you know, they're just no, no matter which way you put it. You know, just it's hard sometimes, but you have to kind of figure out a way around it. You know, a lot of times we'll have somebody, and it's most of the time it's user error. I'm like, I cannot register, and your website's broken, it's not working, you know, like this is ridiculous, you know, and I say, you know, like I'm so sorry that you're having, you know, that you're having technical difficulties. I'm more than happy to help. You know, half of the time, you know, and Chelsea is also a great example too. She's able to really just like, well, let me go ahead and do it for you. Because it only takes a second. You just say, you know what, I completely understand that's awful that you're going through that. Let me just take care of this for you right now. It'll only take a few seconds. If you can give me your address, you know, and just say, you know, like a password, just the word password, all lowercase. That's always our go-to, you know, or sometimes we'll put their first name. They can't get that wrong. That's the first name. You just put, all right, there you go, log in. You know, utilize DocuSign as well, you know, with the confidentiality agreement. That takes a second as well. You already have, especially if you have their address already, you just plop in the listing, send it over. I mean, DocuSign is, you know, you don't even have to make an account, you know, just plop it over. So just, you know, kind of use those tips and tricks, you know, when you're talking to. Oh, I saw somebody raise a hand. That's interesting. I think it was the Charleston team.
Yeah, when you're talking about the notes and being able to go back and see what people are doing and what they're interested in, we had a situation just today. Emily put one of our restaurants under contract, and you know, signed in DocuSign. Everything was good. Get up the next morning, and we see where this individual has signed 2 more CAs out of our area completely, and she never let us see that she was well enough off to buy multiple sites and multiple locations, multiple states. So it kind of concerned us. And Emily sent her a text message or called her and said, just want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. I see where you've signed up. I think it caught her by surprise that we were so in tune with everything she did on the boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You gotta keep, you know, you're able to kind of take a look at that, and the boss is your friend, you know, and be able to utilize that to kind of get things moving forward. Because we've had situations like that as well, which is interesting, you know, where they're in contract and then it's like, well, you just inquired on like 3 other things. So what's happening, you know, to make sure that we're not wasting our time, not wasting their time. But yeah, that's a great example. Being able to kind of look back at that. You know, it's important because I'm sure we've all had situations where you're caught off guard because the buyers turn around and it's like, oh, I'm actually deciding to do this, or I'm making an offer on this, and it's like, wait a second, you know, it's especially time consuming when you're in contract and you're working to get this through, and then, you know, so it's good. It's always good to keep on that, keep checking the notes as well. We've had situations where like, oh, this person's been really difficult with Justin. Let me, you know, so you already have like a heads up and you're like, oh, okay. Hi, how can I help? You've got like that background already in place. So yeah, that's a really good example as well. Just notes are just so important, because nothing sucks more than getting into a conversation and then you have no idea what's going on because you don't have anything, you know, there already in place. You don't know what's happening, and it's like, oh, so you just kind of have to figure it out on the fly. So definitely, that's a really good example for sure. But yeah. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? Or?
Well, what's the best way to add in a new buyer if you're going to do it themselves? Do you do it directly through the website, or can you do it through the boss? What's the best way to do it?
I would do it through the boss. I mean, if you really want to do it through the website, you can walk through the process and you see it yourself. But honestly, the boss, I'd say, is the easiest way to do it. You know, you do have the option, you know, like I personally do it through the boss, but you can certainly do it through the website. However, you have to keep in mind that you'll have to go back to the buyer manager and confirm their account if they don't see it. So just something to keep in mind, but it is your two options, you know. You can definitely, thank you, that's a really good question, but yeah, it's up to you, whatever is easiest for you guys, whatever is most convenient, but especially if they're having a really hard time, just, you know. And if they inquire, you'll notice too, on if it's by cell or whatever it is, they'll already be in the system, so you don't even have to, quote unquote. So when I go into here, I'm gonna buyer manager, you know, when they inquire in the system, I'm gonna look myself up on here. I've got some weird. So see, when they've already inquired in the system, they're already going to be there. So when you're, you know, you just have them as a new buyer, and you can just, from that one screen, you can already say, you know, confirm if they're like this, you know, you're confirm, and you're, you know, putting in the address and whatnot. So from that one place, you put all the information, put the address, everything, you know, click update buyer, and you'll activate them in that one go as well, and confirm the account. So, but again, totally up to you guys, whatever is easiest for you. This brings me to a good point as well. When you're having that conversation, you know, always kind of clicking around, checking notes. You know, you'll notice, this is something that we notice sometimes, because buyers are, when you register them yourself, they can't really lie on the registration. You'll notice some buyers are tricky. I've seen so many times where they'll put a dot where the street address, and it'll just let them through. So if you do register a buyer yourself, you avoid that altogether and you get their information right away, rather than just them just saying, oh, this is my number, this is my zip code, you know, and they just put a dot, or they just put nothing, or, you know, or somebody's, you know, so it definitely avoids that. You can kind of bypass and be like, oh, you know, we still need that information, you know, and it's not like we're mailing them anything, unless, you know, you're mailing information, but we're not, you know, sharing their information with third party, you know. Sometimes people are worried about that, you know, it's like, well, you know, are you going to send me stuff or anything like that? And, you know, you can say, no, this is just, you know, this is confidentiality agreement. It is a legal document, you know, so we do need a valid address, you know, and if it's, we can always change it, you know, but that's, you know, something to keep in mind, because I know people will argue about that and they just don't want to get advertising and things like that. And if they do, you can always you can tell us if they don't want to receive like they say, well, I don't want to receive any emails at all, I just wanted to get the information. You can do it yourself by just, you know, I just click control, and then I just update it, and they don't get anything, you know, or you can just tell us and we'll make sure to remove them from the email list. That's the easiest way. But it's you know, it's right if they don't want to receive anything. That's up to them. That's how they get information. But yeah, if you guys weren't aware before, we don't share their email or their phone numbers. They don't get any weird calls or anything. It is just strictly us. It is just our database. So yeah, something to keep in mind as well. But as I was saying, with DocuSign and registering people, you always have that option. It is faster too, and while you're getting their information, you can kind of open up, get that conversation going, learn a little bit more like, oh, what is this, is this a new time? Is this like something new you want to do? Or do you have previous experience? Just when you kind of get them a little bit more warmed up, you get more information, which is super vital to get in the right opportunity, because we do have tons of opportunities on our website. So it's always helpful to kind of start that conversation. That just wanted to just kind of I know we're hitting the 30-minute mark, but we can obviously continue on. Just kind of did you guys have any questions, anything that I can elaborate on in buyer interactions? We can look through using resources that we have on the BOSS and on the website when talking to buyers, anything like that. And this is the time for sure to show up with any questions or anything to elaborate.
Hey, Naomi, this is Jeff. I have a quick question kind of out of context of what we're talking about, but you mentioned DocuSign. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I don't currently use DocuSign through the BOSS. I just use my own account. But my question about that, and the reason I haven't gone over, I don't really know how it works through the BOSS, but let's just say you put something in contract and you have the seller as a husband, right? And then he's got a wife that's also part of the legal entity. When you convert to DocuSign and through the BOSS, does it open up where you just add that wife or that other partner on there, or is there something you go through the BOSS and put that info in and then it just automatically falls in there?
No, and you do have that option. I believe on there to do a purchase agreement, it has the option for two sellers. So if it's a husband and wife, you just put in her name and her email, and then it'll convert it. If it's connected to to the DocuSign through the BOSS, it'll just give her that option to sign it on the document itself. So you don't actually have to go in physically to add her information in there. If you just put her name and email, or whoever it is, it's like says seller one name, seller one email, then it says seller two name, seller two email. Here, let me try here. It'll pop up for you. So you don't actually have to go in and manually do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of that stuff will automatically populate in the document.
Yeah, it will. It'll automatically populate the signatures, all that good stuff, because the template's already on DocuSign. So you don't have to actually do it manually, because that's a lot of pages to go through.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been doing. That's thinking about transitioning over.
It really, it is. It really, I don't bias, but it makes sense to me. It is a lot easier for sure. Just
okay.
Through the
All right.
DocuSign.
Yeah. I wondered how that works.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It's just quick. You just do it, and it even tells you that it's up on DocuSign too. It'll automatically put in the notes. So you go like, okay, great, it went through. Here you go. Call the person, and then you're good to go. Anybody, any other questions, anything else I can elaborate with or kind of discuss, or any situations, any tips and tricks, things like that, that anybody wants to talk about? Definitely a time to do that.
I got one question for you, and I don't know if you can answer this or not. A lot of times, like buyers that were interested in a listing 3 or 4 months ago might pop up on your hot report with like a date of like January 15th of this year, and like they haven't been on there, and they all of a sudden pop up again. Is that a glitch, or is that they just went back and opened up the listing to look at it again?
No, it's not a glitch. It's that they went to the listing itself and they went to look at it again.
Okay.
It's not a glitch, but they come back to look at it. Yeah, which what happens a lot. If they fall off and you call them 3 times, they'll come back and they'll say, oh, is this still, available? So that's definitely not a glitch. That means that they're still interested, and, they're getting that marketing, they're getting all of that until we get them to come back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's which happens, a lot. Something we'll tell sellers as well. It's like, even if we don't hear from them in a couple of, after we reach out 3 times or whatever it is, they'll come back through marketing, because we send out email blasts, we send signed CA blasts, it'll, whether it's for this listing or another one, they always do come back. It happens a lot more often than I can even count. They'll just like, oh, is this still available? Is this still in contract? Whatever it is. So yeah, if they sign that confidentiality agreement, they're still interested. Because sometimes they'll just forget too. They'll forget, was this the one that I was looking at, or was this another one? So yeah, that's no glitch. That's definitely the time where you're like, okay, I got to call this person, because they may actually still be interested.
Naomi, I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have trouble sometimes with buyers saying they never got the email because either it's rejected or it's obviously going in their spam? But there's several times where people say, I never got your email. And so then we go to our laptop. We don't send it from the boss. We send it from the laptop. That's question 1.
I know. Yeah, definitely. I know there's certain emails, domains that do that. I think iCloud is one of them. For whatever reason, they don't. There's nothing like we're able to do to get them to accept it. Like sometimes iCloud, they just don't get it. So I make sure to, I try to make sure, again, with the notes, trying to put in like, hey, if you're going to send them something, try to send it through your Outlook, which I've had to do that as well, where, Outlook is it's just easiest, and they'll actually get it. There's very rare situations where they don't get it no matter what. I've had a situation like that, but it was just something with her account, with her firewall or something, it just, unfortunately, but it does happen sometimes. I know that we do have that as well, typically with iCloud.
Thanks. Okay. And the second one was, yesterday I was trying to send emails to Ben, the escrow attorney, introducing him to the buyer so he could respond with his wiring instructions. And I know you can put other email address over to the side. And I asked to send it to the seller, to the buyer, and then other to Ben. And then I got an email back from him later saying, well, if you'd introduce me to her, I will send her wiring instructions. And I thought, why didn't it include all that stuff? Like, I guess the boss blind CCs people when you ask it to send a multiple.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it will. You won't see that somebody else was CC'd, but
Okay.
the email itself should have that person, but that is the case, yes. They won't see that if somebody else is CC'd on it. So the buyer will only get that, the seller will only
Okay.
get that he was sent to him. And vice
Okay.
versa. Yes, that is the case.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then same in there, if you click attorney,
Mhm.
click attorney,
Sorry. Oh my gosh, here we go.
it would not let me.
that one.
Yeah, it's just stuck. It wouldn't let me pick. I tried that one too.
Yeah, I know they're working on fixing that. I think the attorney
All right.
emails are also in contract as well. But yes, I do know that we're actually working on that one. So at least if you're not able to go into attorney, they will be under the in contract portion as well, just in case. But yes, that is something that we are aware of. Unfortunately, we're kind of working on as well.
Okay. So if you click attorney, I'm sorry, in contract, and then go over to the template.
Mhm.
Yep. And the escrow note to attorney near the bottom. Yep. Okay. So this doesn't actually give the attorney the buyer's information. Just for everybody to know. It doesn't
So
tell the
it
attorney
won't.
anything.
Hmm.
Yeah. That does
This
not
is
fill it.
so- Okay.
I didn't even know that was there.
It like yesterday,
Okay.
I was panicking, like I gotta get you these people wiring instructions.
That's the first time I've seen it. Every time I get a deal, I use Ben as well. I email Ben a separate, I copy him on this email, like, it's in contract or whatever, that you send to the buyer. Congratulations email, basically. And then I
Right.
send Ben a separate email and reattach the contract and give them the buyer's, seller's name, email, and phone number.
Yeah, but this should pre-populate it, Jeff. And so this is, this is great when it works. If it works, it's great, but it didn't
Cool.
work.
I didn't know it was here.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely look at that. If that's an issue, we'll definitely, I have it on my little sticky note here, so I'll make sure we check on that. But no, there is different templates and things you can use, so feel free to do that. But I'll take a look at these. I'll see, I think it's Angela, and see if there's an issue going on with that and if we can fix it. So which shouldn't be a problem. So escrow note to attorney. Okay. Okay. We'll work on that because that's the whole point, is for it to be useful and for you guys to use it. So if there's an issue, excuse me, definitely we need to work on that. But yeah, no, don't forget there's, in contract, there is, you know, with the buyer notes, when you're doing a third touch, I don't know if you guys are aware, there's a third touch email. So when you're calling and the third time they haven't answered, you can just pop this in and it'll send them an email as well. So definitely good to utilize. There's the buyer-seller meeting emails as well for the buyer and the seller. So if you don't want to send like an actual, you know, your own, unless you want to, confirmation email, it'll be on there as well. So just, definitely take a look at the templates. We have different options in there. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen this as well, we have an E2 visa template as well with recommended E2 visa attorneys and the link to the E2 visa qualified listing. So something good to utilize whenever, if you have a situation, which we have had a lot, you can just pop that in there and it'll go straight to them. So just, definitely look at the email templates, to just kind of make it a little bit easier. They're there for you guys to use. There's also the Spanish ones as well, which I checked. So if there's ever, everything's spelled and it's got the right links and everything. So if there's ever a time, feel free to use that. But obviously, if you have any questions, let me know, because I am here to help with any Spanish translation. I'll take a look into that template. Make sure that we fix whatever the issue is. Any other questions? Anything else I can assist you guys with? All ears, happy to help.
Is it okay if we review, for those that might be interested in staying on, scheduling emails through the task?
I think that'll be, because today's just buyers, but I think that'll be, we'll definitely have the lunch and learn for that though, so you don't have to worry. Angela, it's actually going to be Angela who's going to be doing that for you guys. So
okay, thanks.
Absolutely, so that's a good point. The next lunch and learn is going to be Tabby. It's going to be, just to kind of refresh, it's going to be about writing the perfect listing, talking about writing listings. So Tabby's going to help you guys with that. Then it'll be Angela on in contract situations. So same time, 12:30, same link, just so you guys are aware. But at least next week's is going to be Tabby about writing listings. So that's going to be a really good session as well. Just double checking if everybody's good to go. I hope this was informative, and again,
I've got one question that's kind of off topic for today, but we've got some guys on here with a lot of experience. We've got a landlord that has asked us to, we've got a landlord, we just put one of our listings under contract, and the landlord has asked us if we would share the contract. He owns the building. He actually started the cafe years ago. He subsequently sold it to the guy that we're working with as a seller. Is anybody had a problem with sharing a contract, or do you share a contract with the landlord?
I get that asked a lot. I try not to, because it's technically none of their business, but they think it is. And so sometimes for them to make the deal, you have to. Yeah,
he's a little bit of a nosy
Yeah, he is.
guy, so I'm just kind of hesitant to do it.
We'll just ask him, what information are you looking for that you think the contract is going to give you? Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's a good way of doing that too. Same, that's always a good, point to make too with buyers in general. I can't tell you how many times a buyer will ask, for the lease. You know, I'm sure a lot of people ask that. I wanted to see the lease. Like, what information are you looking for? Most of the time, that's good phrases to use for sure. Something to keep in mind as well. It's like, yeah, I can definitely get you that information. You know, what are you looking for exactly? Most of the time, it's rent escalation. But you know, those kind of really in-depth documents are, you know.
I think if you look at it from the landlord's shoes, though, it probably makes sense, because if they're paying $200,000 cash for a restaurant and they've only got $230,000 cash in their bank account, and now all of a sudden their personal financial statement is basically you only have $30,000 to operate this restaurant. So I mean, that might be a reason why they ask. I don't know.
That's a really good point. We prefer, like you have said, I don't want to share the contract because I just don't think it's any of his business, other than does it hinder their ability to operate? Well, they've got like 800,000 in cash and then they're only paying 100. So I think that the situation there is, here's their financial statement. And believe me, they are going to have more than half of this remaining after the purchase. And that way he doesn't need to know what they paid. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
And that information wouldn't it be available in the personal site? I mean, you know, we get them those documents to get to landlord approval. So nothing really in the contract you would think they would need, because we, you know, especially in getting landlord approval, we got the resume, we got the personal financial statement, you know, if they're bringing their own concept, you know, they should have already those details in place. But yeah, that was a really good point. Thank you, Jeff, for kind of going through that. That's the whole reason why we're doing this session, to help out each other. But apart from that, just want to do kind of a quick roundup. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
And of course, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Have a great lunch, and happy weekend. Have a great weekend, guys.